What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today we're going to be talking about the New York Giants' new offensive line coach, Bobby Johnson, and some really interesting quotes that he had today at OTAs, just kind of discussing the offensive lineman that he's coaching now and the scar tissue and PTSD that he's noticed within these players. Now, when you think back to the Giants' offensive line over the past few years, you don't think positive thoughts. You think of Nate Solder being a turnstile, Daniel Jones being planted into the ground and getting injured and getting beat up on game after game. You think of Shane Lemieux, who's still fighting for the starting left guard spot, having a lot of struggles as a rookie. You think of Andrew Thomas playing really poorly as a rookie and turning it around in year two, granted, but you also think overarching on all of that is a lot of inconsistency. And where does that stem from? The lack of development, the inconsistent play from the offensive lineman game after game. Well, probably from coaching, right? And when you take a look at what the New York Giants had at the offensive line coach position from 2018 till now, that's 4 years, and they've had 5 coaches, including Bobby Johnson. In 2020, they had 2, Mark Colombo and Dave DeGuglielmo. In 2021, they transitioned over to Rob Sales. So you think about Andrew Thomas and the career trajectory that he's on, and it's super impressive. The fact that he was able to manage a really solid sophomore season after having 3 offensive line coaches in 2 years, in addition to a bunch of assistants that Joe Judge had working on that roster alongside DeGuglielmo, Mark Colombo, and Rob Sale. There was assistants such as Freddie Kitchens, who was helping with the offensive line, Pat Flaherty, and assistant offensive line coach Ben Wilkerson. They all had input on the offensive line, and it was a real collaborative, coaching effort that Joe Judge wanted to create, and it failed. And the Giants' offensive line suffered because of it. It's unfortunate to say, but we look at the development of guys like Shane Lemieux and guys like Nick Gates, who developed pretty nicely at the start of his career, but of course injuries have derailed. Then we take a look at Andrew Thomas, of course, and the development could have been a lot better. Even Will Hernandez is no longer with the Giants, but maybe a better coach could have gotten more out of him. But now finally the Giants seem to have found the guy that they really like, a guy who's recognizing all of the flaws that were taught to the previous offensive line coach, and that's Bobby Johnson. Bobby Johnson was the offensive line coach of the Buffalo Bills previously, till now being signed as the offensive line coach to the New York Giants. He's worked with Brian Dable. He's got familiarity with him already, and of course, they work together in Buffalo, and now they're working together with the New York Giants. And Bobby Johnson is a coach that I really like. We've been talking about him kind of frequently on this channel over the past few weeks, just kind of discussing some of his quotes, what he could bring to the Giants, how we feel about him, combining with Evan Neal, Andrew Thomas, all the other guys that we have on the New York Giants offensive line now. And Bobby Johnson is, he's really energetic, and he's got like a very nice mindset, and he's not really afraid to speak his mind when he's speaking to the reporters. Now, we've heard him say things, like discussing John Feliciano, the center. We talked about John Feliciano a couple episodes on the podcast. Go check it out. We were talking about how John Feliciano was given this nickname by Bobby Johnson. The nickname is Dirtbag. And obviously that sounds like a bad word. It sounds like a bad name, like he's making fun of him, but he's not. For an offensive lineman to be successful in the NFL, Bobby Johnson thinks they need to play like a dirtbag. They need to be some scum. They need to be going for those pancakes, being mean in those trenches and setting that tone, being a leader, leading by example, and maybe not always setting the best example, but just being a good leader when you're doing it, right? Being a dirtbag on the field. And Bobby Johnson went as far as to say, if you're not playing like John Feliciano, if you're not playing like a dirtbag, you're not playing at all. So John Feliciano is really going to set the tone for this offensive line and be that leader from that center position. And Bobby Johnson is going to make sure that all of the offensive linemen on the team, whether that be Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, Joshua Azidu, Max Garcia, Mark Lewinsky, and of course, who's the other guy that I'm not thinking of? Nick Gates as well. Nick Gates has played like a dirtbag before too. All of these guys, they got to play like dirtbags for Bobby Johnson to put them on the field, and that's something pretty cool to see, that he just has already that mindset that he wants his offensive line to play with. And I really like, the kind of the continuity that we're going to have going forward, because that was really the struggle there. 2018 to 19, Hal Hunter, 2020, Mark Colombo and Dave DeGuglielmo, and 2021, Rob Sale. A lot of overturn. It seems like Brian Dable, he's already worked with Bobby Johnson in the past, and it seems like a safe hiring because he knows who Bobby Johnson is. He has a relationship with him, and now they can move forward with consistency and constancy at that position. And I think that's really important. Having a rookie like Evan Neal enter into this lineup, he needs constancy. Andrew Thomas, I feel really bad for the guy. He's had 4 offensive line coaches already in just 3 seasons now. In just 3 seasons, going into his 3rd season on his 4th offensive line coach. Not ideal. It's not what you want to see. So hopefully there's some constancy that can be brought by Bobby Johnson as this hiring that they made back in February. So, of course, now we'll dive into the quotes that he had recently. I had these quotes just today. He's speaking to the New York Post, and the New York Post, a reporter asked him a question, something, and they used some interesting words. They said, so they were asking him if Johnson sees a wounded and desperate group of players returning off the quite bad 2021 offensive line. Bobby Johnson responded by saying, quote, those are all extreme words. I would say this. I did notice a sense of, in this profession, whether you're a coach or a player, you have things that we call scar tissue, or, not to make light of the situation, some PTSD over things that have happened to you that shape your identity or shape your philosophy. And there's some guys I've interacted with that have had that because of the things that have happened in recent past. Now, that's obviously referring to kind of the previous regime and the way that they coach these players. So when he's saying stuff like that, there's some sort of PTSD or some scar tissue. To me, the way that I'm interpreting it is Bobby Johnson is taking a look at these guys at practice, taking a look at their form, their technique, the fundamentals that they've learned over the past few years in the NFL, and saying, why were you taught this? This is all wrong. We need to reteach you this and make you a better player than what you are right now. And that really does shed light on how bad the regime was for the previous players. It shows that their development was, in fact, being stunted. Their growth was being stunted. They were not getting all of the tools and resources necessary to become the best players that they can be. Andrew Thomas was never going to reach his maximum potential with guys like Mark Colombo, Dave DeGuglielmo, or Rob Sale. They need a guy like Bobby Johnson who's been around the league. He's been with multiple teams and knows what he's doing and has that constancy and can teach him exactly the form that he's seen make other offensive linemen successful in the past. And I think that's super important, especially when you're adding in the fact that the Giants just spent the 7th overall pick on right tackle Evan Neal. So when you look at guys like Shane Lemieux, guys like Matt Peart, even Andrew Thomas, they were here with the past regime. Nick Gates as well. These are some of the players that were here being taught by the past regime. And then, of course, even the backups like Corey Cunningham. There are offensive linemen that were with these former coaches. And right now at practice, they're displaying bad habits. They're showing bad technique, bad fundamentals. And Bobby Johnson is taking note of that and saying, this is scar tissue. We need to heal this. We need to fix this. We don't want to have you stepping into the 2022 season and using the same technique that you use in 2021 or 2022 season 21, right? Because what they were doing in the past was not good. It was leading to, again, bad growth from their position. They weren't developing right. And of course, just really bad offensive line play. So Bobby Johnson with that really interesting quote there. And like I said, he's trying to reset this offensive line. So we mentioned how he's resetting the mindset. Of course, we talked about everybody playing like a dirtbag, resetting the mindset, resetting the tone that the offensive line is going to set in each and every single game. Bobby Johnson's already changing that major aspect of the offensive line. But now he also wants to reset what the Giants are doing in terms of their technique and how they play along the offensive line. So really, you're going to see a night and day difference in this offensive line and the way that they operate. He's trying to rework and rebuild it completely. Not only rework and rebuild the leadership and rebuild the mindset that these guys play with, but also the way that they play the game, their technique, their form, their fundamentals, all of that stuff. It's going to be a completely different offensive scheme. We know that because we had a very power zero, run heavy, and short passing concept playbook with Jason Garrett. It's going to be a lot different. You're going to see Brian Dable's offensive scheme and Mike Kafka. Those two are going to collaborate. They're going to build a new Giants offense that's going to have a lot more spread offense, a lot more zone running, outside zone and inside zone. There's going to be a lot more zone rather than gap and power. And that's going to take a lot of time to get used to for some of these offensive linemen that were here in the past. That's going to take some adjustment periods, and we might see some ups and downs from Andrew Thomas early on. Maybe, we might see some of those challenges arise because they are being retaught a new offensive scheme with new fundamentals and new techniques along the offensive line, all while trying to play under a new adopted mindset. So could see some challenges early on from the Giants offensive line. I don't think this is an overnight fix. I still think they've got a couple pieces that they need to add down the line. But right now, what we can all be grateful for as New York Giants fans is that, yes, the Giants have gotten an influx of talent on their offensive line, but also it appears that they've gotten an influx of leadership and talent from the offensive line coach position. the offensive line coach is a very, very important assistant coach. And it seems really exciting now that the Giants have actually hired somebody that knows what to do and can do the job well. So I'm really excited to see exactly how Bobby Johnson is able to coach these guys all throughout the summer. Of course, we're going to be keeping you up to date with all the New York Giants news throughout the summer. Training camp will be rolling along soon enough. And then, of course, we're getting into preseason. Before you know it, regular season is here. We're seeing Bobby Johnson's unit get to work on Sundays, and that's going to be really exciting. So make sure to stay tuned to Fireside Giants because we'll keep you updated on all of the New York Giants news. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video. Subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell so you do not miss a video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.